Okay, Module 3. So this one falls into the Canadian landscapes theme, talking about the psychological and the physical. So I blocked off 2 weeks for this unit. Now, depending on how you complete the first part here, will depend on how long you give yourself for the second part. So because I've had you answer some comprehend and respond questions in modules 1 and 2, I am not going to have you hand that part in again, okay? So click on this. However, so the big assignment for this module, you have to write an original narrative. It can be fiction or nonfiction. It can be based on your life, someone else's. It can be inspired by someone else's, but classified as fiction. What you need to do as you're writing that short story is, like the poetry assignment, you need to be aware of writing techniques and short story narrative techniques. So I've got a review here. You just click on each of the links and this will help you if you need support writing dialogue, especially click on this one. If you don't remember the story arc, click on this one. If you need some ideas, click on this one right here. This is plot lines. That gives you some examples. Okay, so here I'm explaining the option in writing. I do want you to read these selections. I want you to read all the short stories and nonfiction narratives in this section. I'm not going to have you submit the questions. Look at the questions. Look for the techniques as you're reading. If I was doing this assignment, I would print the text and I would annotate on them. I was mentioning during the poetry module how important annotation is. Practice it with these assignments as well. So you don't have to answer the question. I'm going to say that again. You don't have to answer the questions. Click on here. You can read The Painted Door, The Lamp at Noon. Check out his writing style. Here's a different form of narrative. Read this one. See if you like it, don't like it, find it challenging, think it's pretty cool. Because when you're writing your own story, you are the author, you make the choices. So you have to decide if you're going to write a traditional short story, if you're going to try some different techniques. And then here I've got a couple narrative nonfiction. If you wanted to write something a little bit reflective about your life, if there's been an interesting experience that you would like to share, and tone is kind of the focus in here. One is reflective, one is satirical. What does that mean? Figure it out and use it in your own story. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of questions here. I've had kids hand this in before. I am not going to require you to do that. If you really like structure and you want to, go for it. If you want to just print the text off and highlight and annotate, I love doing that. Do that. Here's the question. 5 literary devices. Highlight them on the sheet and think about the effect that they have. Okay? So that's the first bit. Please, please, please read the stories. You don't have to submit anything for this assignment, even though it's got all this stuff here. You can see the only thing you have to do to complete it is view it. But please, spend a few days and read. Okay? So that's the first bit. The second part, you have to write your own story. Real or invented. Using all of those skills and techniques from the previous assignment, write your own story. And then, like the poetry reflection, I have a reflective assignment here as well. It's the same thing, and I made a little note that says feel free to include an annotated version of your narrative. I've had folks use the comment section on Google Docs for this, so you can highlight a paragraph and say, here's an example of where I used imagery, or highlight your opening paragraph and say, I wanted to open with a really interesting, suspenseful scene in order to have this effect on the reader. I wanted to grab their attention, or I started with the ending, and then the rest of my story is a flashback. Okay, so you can annotate on that. And if none of this makes sense, talk to me. But this is your module 3.